Hello, and welcome to Wednesday. I'm pretty sure I said this either last Wednesday or last Thursday, but I talked about how I was hoping that we could go at least 1 week of filming every day on the actual day that it is, but once again, we're not. It is not actually Wednesday. It is Saturday. No. The reason why we didn't film today is because I just didn't want to. I was just lazy. I'll be completely honest. I was up late editing videos this day. I remember it vividly, and I remember it being like 11 o'clock when I was going to bed, and I was like, I could film, or I could just go to sleep and think about it a different day. And here we are, Saturday, and I'm about to sit down to edit. It is 6:30 p.m., and I'm just now filming the vlog. But I actually do have a topic for today. I'm going to be talking a little bit in future tense because, again, we're filming on Saturday, even though this vlog is for Wednesday. But I wanted to dedicate a vlog to talking a bit more about the ROG Ally X, as I've actually been keeping track with my friends about my progress and my thoughts on the thing, and I've had a bit more time to use it. In fact, as of now, it is currently installing games, so I have been using it. And I kind of want to talk about my pros and cons with it, because I actually do have some cons with the ROG Ally X. And I'm going to get into my negatives that I have with the thing. So the first time I talked about this cute little hunk of junk was the fact that I really like the fact that it is essentially a portable Windows machine that can play any storefront you throw at it, because it is literally Windows. That is the one plus to the ROG, as well as like the Lenovo Legion or other devices like that. Then the Steam Deck is the ROG can actually play any storefront because it can just run Windows. Your mileage may vary on whether or not things are compatible with Armory Crate, which in turn ties to the button controls in the actual system. But from everything that I've tested, which I've only tested Steam in the Epic Games Store, it runs flawlessly. I have yet to test anything on the GOG store, but I'm sure things will work just as fine. Now again, the topic of today's vlog is the cons that I've run into with the ROG Ally. I guess I can also go into the pros. So today will just be the pros and cons of the ROG Ally X after using it for about a week. So, pros. Love the fact that you can run any storefront. Again, I've only run Steam and Epic Games. They run flawlessly. I've had absolutely zero issues with it. I freaking love the thing. Another con, it is super comfortable. This thing is amazing in terms of comfort. I actually tend to have an issue when it comes to these portable handheld systems. A great example is the Switch 2. I absolutely despise playing that thing in handheld mode. I already thought the Switch 1 was uncomfortable to the point that I had to buy the SplitPad Pros in order to even make the Switch 1 comfortable in handheld mode. And the Switch 2? Even worse. I dislike it in handheld even more. I hardly ever play the thing in handheld because of how much it makes my hands hurt. And the Steam Deck is better. It's not worse than the Switch 2, but it's only a little bit better. I can handle it for a little bit, but after a while, my hands do start to cramp up. The ROG Xbox Ally X don't have that issue. I think it is very comfortable, and I think it has to do with the fact that they went for that Xbox-style grip. It's phenomenal. Other pros that I could give to the ROG Ally X are not really anything that is exclusive to that specific system. It's more so stuff that is just a pro to these types of portable systems, where it's, hey, you can go from docking it on the TV to running it handheld, and it runs great. It does that. I feel like that's not necessarily a pro to the ROG Ally because, again, I love these devices. This is the third one that I have. I actively use my Switch. I use my Steam Deck for emulation, and the ROG I am now using for my other PC games. So that's not necessarily a pro exclusive to the ROG, but I guess that's more of a honorable mention. Now moving on to the cons. Now I feel like my pros and cons are probably going to grow a bit more the more I use the thing, because again, I've only used it for about a week. And even then I've used it very little. Most of the time it's just been downloading games so I can get it stream ready. But to give you guys an idea as to what I'm even using the ROG Ally for, because this will determine my pros and cons list, I am essentially just using this thing as a secondary PC to strictly play my PC games. Because I plan on streaming and I want to have a dual PC build. Because even though my PC is beefy, it can't really handle everything that I want to do on the back end for content creation, as well as running games. So the ROG Ally is strictly just, it will run games, and I feed it through my capture card, and that's how I play my PC games. So all my pros mentioned that, hey, this does everything I wanted it to do. It plays these games that I've been looking to have a device play it that's not just a PC. I want a unique piece of tech, and I think this is a pretty unique piece of tech. But the cons have been interesting. The first thing that I've noticed, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, if this is incorrect, but I have noticed this. Anytime Armory Crate has to have an update, which for those of you who don't know what Armory Crate is, it's like ASUS's, it's their like back-end software. I use it for RGB settings on my PC, and Armory Crate is used for not only the button controls, but the RGB, the performance settings. It does all of that for the ROG Ally. I've noticed that if Armory Crate has an update and you haven't updated the system, the buttons have a tendency to just not work. So, you know, the things physically attached to the controller, they just won't work all that well if you don't have it updated. So, like today, I went to install games, and what do you know, my buttons wouldn't work, and I thought the thing was broken, and then I got a pop-up being like, oh, Armory Crate needs an update. And I'm like, okay. And then I updated it. It took like 10 minutes, and after it updated, it worked fine. So that is a definite con of the ROG Ally X, is that if this thing is not updated, it will not work. And I don't know if that's how it is for Windows, but it definitely is that way for Armory Crate. And that is a con that I've heard from other people. I haven't had the issue, but I also haven't gone out of my way to make sure the thing's not updated. I have heard that if you don't have Windows updated as well, like mess with the BIOS and stuff, wouldn't be surprised because it's Windows. And that probably is a con for some. But again, I'm not going to put that as a con on my list because I wanted a Windows machine. I love the Steam machine, or the Steam Deck, because it's Linux, and I prefer Linux over Windows, but unfortunately, most of my games need Windows. So, I'm not going to put that as a con, but that may be a con for you. It's a Windows machine. Another con that I've run into, and truth be told, as of now, I've only had one hiccup, so I'm also going to put this as an honorable mention. I don't know if this is going to be a long-running issue, but I have had this issue for my Steam Deck, and I've had that for about a year, or almost 2 years now. I've noticed that whenever the ROG Ally is shut down, and you boot it up in docked, because I actually do have a dock for it, there's a chance that the monitor settings don't work properly, so it can just not show up on your TV. You have to like unplug it, go in handheld, and then plug it back in. Again, I have that issue frequently with my Steam Deck. It happens almost every time I plug the Steam Deck, or I turn on the Steam Deck while it's docked. Whereas the ROG, I've had that issue like once, maybe twice, but I haven't had the issue since, so it could have just been a hiccup. Again, I'm going to make that as an honorable mention. It's not as seamless as like a Switch, where it can go from dock to handheld. I know my pros and cons list really aren't that big, but again, I'm talking about this from the perspective of I've only had it for a week. I've done very little with it. I've played very few games with it. It's more so I'm getting it ready to be mass used. But these are just the things that I've noticed after using it for a week. So I'm sure my pros and cons list will grow bigger. Maybe I'll make a video talking about the ROG after like 6 months of use. But after a week, these are just the things that I've noticed. So if you have any pros and cons that you want to talk about, or maybe some things that I didn't discuss, because again, maybe I haven't used it enough, feel free to let me know in the comments. But overall, I'm still very happy with this thing. I'm very happy with the purchase that I made. Again, it's doing everything that I wanted to do. It's doing everything I wanted to do flawlessly. Well, I shouldn't say flawless. I just mentioned everything that makes it not flawless. But it's doing everything great. I have very few complaints about it. And I'm actually excited to use it more. Just got to get games installed and all that. I've already installed like 2 terabytes worth of games on this thing, because I actually put an external hard drive on it so that I can use that for streaming. But yeah, I'm really happy with the ROG Ally, and I want to use more of it. So let me know what you think of the system if you have it yourself. And that is going to be it for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you all later.